Alrighty. Okay, so we're going to make a start because Alastair is here. So Alastair, same introduction for everyone. You have about 2 minutes to introduce yourself and tell us about who you are and what it is about the mayor's position that is so exciting that you're running for that position and not any other position. So we just want to know a little bit about you. And then after that, I will commence asking you questions. So maybe about 2 minutes, tell us a bit about who you are.
Okay, thanks very much, Kiki. I'm Alastair Watson. I'm the Conservative candidate for Mayor of Bristol. My background is in business, big business, small business. I've owned a restaurant in Bristol as well. So, I kind of know how difficult it is to make money sometimes. But I've also worked for larger companies and done quite a lot of consultancy for various businesses as well. I've also been a city councillor. I'm the only candidate for mayor who's actually been a councillor prior to doing this job. And I've also been Lord Mayor of Bristol a few years ago. So that's sort of my background. I think it's important that for the mayor to have the experience of not just business, but also of how councils run and how the Bristol City Council in particular runs. Because actually, I think when I was a councillor, I think it took me about 2 years to be effective at all, because it's quite a massive institution and an organisation which is actually quite difficult to get a handle on and to even know, where the levers are within that. Anyway, I mean, I'm standing on a manifesto to stop the waste at City Hall. I think that the mayor we've had for the last 5 years, because the term was extended for a year, has wasted an awful lot of money, both capital and revenue money from our budget. He has a big office, twice the size at least of what George Ferguson had. He's set up various other city offices and also wasted a lot of money on things like Bristol Energy Company, which when I was a councillor, I fought tooth and nail to try and stop the council starting this company. And I think, we've got a lot of business people on this call, and I think most of us would look at the risks of going into a very competitive commercial market with a group of people who aren't really that type of business people, and also a council which is not really set up to do it, probably is going to fail. There was a time when it looked like you could just make money and print it. Well, you and I know that doesn't last very long in business, because everybody floods in, and we've seen what's happened there with not just the Bristol Energy Company, with plenty of others. So I want to bring competent leadership and business leadership to the City Council. Do you want me to go on, or shall I stop there and take questions?
No, that's fine. That's enough. We can go ahead and take questions. Thank you for that, Alastair. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so now the first question. These were questions that are submitted by our members, and I'm going to read them out the way they were written.
Okay.
So the first question says, the reparations motion recently passed by Bristol City Council outlines a number of actions that need to be taken for the city to move towards reparative justice. These include creating a just economy through community wealth creation and centering the voices of African heritage communities. As mayor, how would you implement these actions?
Well, I think this is a difficult one, perhaps for me, because my group, although I wasn't in the council, but we voted against this motion on reparations, not because we think that the period of slavery and the aftermath and how it's been difficult for African heritage people to get on in the past is not important. What I suppose what we see is that, particularly reparations, there's a lot of groups around Bristol, not just those of African heritage, that perhaps feel aggrieved that they're not included in the economy at the moment and everything. So, I think we've got to do the right things, And, certainly, if there's any institutional racism in any organizations, that's got to be driven out. And any, I mean, that there is racism out there. There's no doubt about it. Things are getting better, I think. I mean, the Sewell report, I guess there might be some of you that feel that was a bit of a whitewash. And, I think, and I speak to Samuel Williams, who's our candidate for the Wecker mayor, who's of African heritage originally. And, he feels that it's that there are certain areas that he wouldn't agree with in that report. So, I've sort of gone round and round, sort of, I think we've got to do the basics, and we've got to bring groups together, communities together. I feel at the moment, and I feel that what some of these motions have done, they're actually driving divisions within our society in Bristol, which I don't think, I'm sure there's inequalities, and we've got to work on those inequalities, but work on them together. And my approach would be to bring people together rather than try and start to sort of say, I'm a victim, you're privileged. There's so many different groups out there. So, I'd try and be inclusive, I think.
Thank you for your honesty, Alastair. Thank you for that. So the next question is short. It says, do you have any plans to increase taxes, direct or indirect, to help support local growth and economic expansion?
I don't think it's within the mayor's powers to raise taxes. Certainly not at the moment. I'm a conservative. I like low tax economies. I like free markets. I'm very liberal in my views about other things, but in economics, I'm reasonably dry, as they would say, rather than the wet. So, I mean, taxes are going to be necessary at some stage. We all have to pay taxes, but as low as possible. And in some ways, and there's probably more economics students out there than I, listening to this, who know more about economics than I do. But once you start to raise taxes to a certain level, then people try and avoid them, and actually you retain less, and you take away some of the what's the word I'm looking for? Wanting to make more of our economy and growth. So, I wouldn't. I mean, I suppose the only tax would be council tax, and I think we try and keep that to a minimum.
Thank you, Alastair. Now, the next question says, I have seen school signs proudly say that 30% of students achieve grades A to C. Clearly, that sounds like 70% don't achieve this bar. How do you plan to improve educational achievement standards in primary and secondary schools across Bristol?
When I was on council, I was for a time the cabinet member for Children and Young People Services, and we should really put an awful lot of time, effort, and whatever money we can have into education. Education is the great leveler. I think that is the way that we can drive opportunities for people. And so, I'm not an educational expert, but I certainly think that we need to bring young people in early. Early years are so important to get people on the right track. Once they fall behind, they fall behind. And some groups do extremely well, and some are lagging behind, and we have to look at why that's happening, and what's the driving force behind that.
Your racist photos are blocking everything.
Oh, sorry. Is that somebody?
Yes,
Gemma?
sorry, Frank, can you do me the favor to mute whoever is unmuted? Sorry, Alastair. Do you want me to ask you the next question, or do you want to keep going on that one?
No, just ask me the next question. Yeah.
Sorry about that interruption. Okay. So the next question is about traffic pollution. So this member says, traffic pollution is often worse in economically deprived areas. This is despite the fact that these communities are the least responsible for causing this pollution. For example, the rates of asthma in the Lawrence Hill ward are some of the highest in the region. The proposed clean air zone may, due to displacement of traffic around its boundaries, increase the problem. As mayor, what will you do to protect the communities bordering the clean air zone?
Yeah, I think that's a very important question, because traffic will get displaced, and other communities might suffer. We do have, I mean, the worst air pollution though is in the centre of the city. We have to do something about that. The Conservative group and myself would like to remove the Portway and Cumberland Basin from that clean air zone, because we feel that's really cutting off South Bristol and North Bristol for an awful lot of people who would have to pay if they went through a clean air zone. But your specific question is, I think we need to look at livable neighbourhoods and to see whether those would work for certain areas. Maybe, you know, as you say, with, you know, Lawrence Western or wherever. Because that's where quite a bit of the traffic will probably be moving. But, you know, also, you know, many other districts around Bristol. But I think the thing is, we do have to do something about the centre. Let's keep an eye on it. Let's monitor it, and then if there are problems, then we should be going in there and sorting out those problems.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, so now the next question gets a little bit personal, and I've asked this to all the other candidates, right? So this, one of our members is asking, if you were to summarize your life, highlighting 3 key influences, whether situations or people, that have shaped the person that you are today, what would you say?
Oh gosh. I think, well, I think my wife would be one. My wife did a degree in environmental sciences, and we married shortly after university. And I've been an environmentalist all my life because of that, and I'm still very committed to the environment. And we have, for many years, I think we've now done over 40 years of marriage. And you know, I've been doing things people are talking about doing now, and you know, we've even decided 18 months ago that we wouldn't fly again. So we're not going to fly until there are clean aircraft out there. So you know, that's and those kind of decisions, you know, are hard, because you know, I want to go and see the Caribbean. I want to, you know, I want to go to America. I'm not going to do that again in my life unless they make hydrogen aircraft or whatever. So you know, she's certainly a huge influence on me, and we've worked together over that time on a lot of things. W. Edwards Deming. He's dead now, but he took me into understanding business and how business works. For those of you who've ever been involved in the quality movement or lean or Six Sigma and those sort of areas, I believe so much in what he said, and not just on the statistical side of how to run a business, but also on the people side as well. And I think politically, and this might sound a bit funny, but John Major. I joined the Conservative Party after Margaret Thatcher was deposed. I wasn't a fan of Margaret Thatcher. I didn't mind her views too much on economics, and I think she did some really amazing things. But you know, I didn't like her views on other subjects, particularly on gay rights and other things like that, which I think was totally wrong. So I joined with, and I met John Major a couple of times. And although he's portrayed on the television as being boring and you know, not very exciting, I actually, when you met him face to face, he was a very, very nice person and very impressive. Yeah, so those would be my 3 off the top of my head. I haven't had time to think about that one. There's probably loads of us.
I'll tell you something, everyone struggled on that one, so that's okay. But thank you for sharing that. That's a personal one, so thank you for sharing that with us. I have time to ask you at least one more question. So
Okay.
here it goes. A big thing is made about having more bodies on the beat. While policing is an important part, what steps are you taking to tackle root causes of criminal or antisocial behavior?
Well, it's not in the mayor's gift particularly, that one. That will be the police and crime commissioner. We've kind of separated that out politically. But having said that, I want to work with the police crime commissioner. I want to work with the chief constable, because design of the city, the way it operates, the sort of things we do there are all part of what the mayor does, and there's many interactions there. I'm certainly foursquare behind the police and their actions during the recent protests and riots. I think they were in a very difficult position, and I think that some of the political parties are trying to make political capital out of it, and I think that really, violence or rent a thug that we had out there, that particularly on that first night, there was no excuse for that. So I think that if we want a good society that works well, we have to have good law and order, and I'd be certainly supporting what needs to be done as far as the city would have any levers to pull in that area.
Brilliant. Do you want to answer one more question before you go, or do you want to shoot off?
No, go on. I've got a couple of minutes. I'll try and be quick.
Yeah, I have one more question for you at least. Okay. So this one says, there have been a number of research papers that concluded that businesses are more likely to outperform their peers if they have ethnically diverse leadership. Therefore, what will you do to promote ethnic diversity on the boards of Bristol's businesses?
I'd promote it in whatever way I could. I mean, you can't tell businesses what to do. They're businesses, they're commercial. Certainly, I know, that we can do better in the council and in the public sector. But I would agree with you, on their merits, everybody should have a chance to get to the top of an organization. I've just been working in a company that's, it's a UK-wide sort of, and I did a 2-year job there as the director of business transformation in the UK, and it's waste management, and it is very well, I mean, the diversity on the board is virtually zero. I mean, they got one woman, and I think that's about as diverse as it got. And I was speaking to them and saying, how can we do this? And the only way is to bring people on, is to develop people who've got potential. I think the mentoring, they were doing a lot with women in the industry, but also you've got to do. I have to say, I think your group is fantastic. I think it's great. And when I was Lord Mayor, I went to a dinner and it was Catholic business people, and I thought, wow, I don't even think about Roman Catholics as needing a network, and they were actually, at this stage, saying, well, we're really just a social network now, but in the past, Roman Catholics found it difficult to get promotions, to get jobs in the UK, in England, and I wouldn't even think about that. But of course, that's what you need. You need that help, that mentoring, that just getting you on the steps and helping you move up there. And when now I wouldn't think there's very much need for a Roman Catholic one, but I think there's and I hope that in 20, 30 years you're going to say, well, we got there. I mean, that's what I hope. And I think the sort of thing you're doing, I would encourage any business that I would see to talk to Poku and all the rest of you and say, talk to these guys, because, they can help you. And that's what I'd be doing.
Thank you so much for that, Alastair. It's been so wonderful sharing this evening with you. And I realize it's now 7:30 and you have to shoot off. But
Yeah,
thank you for answering our questions. And if that's okay, we might be able to send some questions over to you. If you can answer them, great. If not, that's okay too.
I think the one thing I'd like is if I was to be elected, maybe we can have a talk, but maybe the other way, for you to tell me what you think I should be doing for you, because I'm trying to second guess you in some ways, and I might have missed the target in a number of ways. It would be good to get together. So if I get elected, please let's get together and have a chat.
I think that sounds wonderful. Thank you so much for that. It's okay that maybe you don't know all of it, but the invitation is the important thing. So thank you for that.
A pleasure. And it's been lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you too. Take care,
Thank
Alastair. A big wave to Alastair, everyone. Thanks. Just to say thank you for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Alastair. Thank you.
I'll try and get
All right, guys. And that brings this evening to an end. Normally, as you know, we would like to go into breakout rooms so that we can talk about what we just heard. But given that this was